Doodoo white noise.
I had to look up what actually doodoo means, and I was like, sure, I get it now.
Yeah.
Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Today we're talking to a heavyweight in the Minatory scene. We are talking about the Plague Doctor, the person who goes by the name Scarred. He was previously known as Vishaz, so you may have seen that name before. And some of the things that we talk about today, some of them are hilarious. So I won't give you any spoilers. You'll have to find that out for yourself. I do have some timestamps that you can use to skip around if you do not have the time to go through the entire thing in one sitting. And if you are a new producer, then there are specifically some things that might be helpful to you. So look out for those. I'll also play a song in the beginning, which gives you an example of what kind of music Scarred makes and the producer behind the voice. Let's jump in. All right, you're ready to go?
All good.
Yeah. Where do you want to start? I mean, I've already spoken to you about this, about your music and stuff. So forget about all that conversation. We can start fresh.
Yeah, that's all. I'm happy to do that.
So maybe we can start with how did you get into music in the first place?
Your funny story that. Okay, there's actually a few reasons how that came about. And the biggest one would be due to actually, as I was in seventh grade, I was browsing through Spotify and I was just checking out all these new platforms to listen to music if I can find anything I like. Well, I saw one of my friends that I used to talk to, he's listening to like this EP or some, I don't remember what it's called. I listened to it. I'm like, okay, I like this. This is my new, this is pretty much what I'm going to listen to, I bet, for the next 20 years or so. And then, lo and behold, this is where I am. I started with, like, the stuff from 2011, 2010, like the EDM and all that underground stuff from there. And then it progressed to where it is now.
Oh, interesting. It wasn't really heavy necessarily back then, was it?
No, it was Noise Storm. It was guys like Pegboard Nerds. It was all that kind of stuff back then that I listened to. All the Monster Cat artists.
Makes sense. I remember my pegboard nerds days. that was fun times.
Pegboard Nerds is so good.
From that point, how did it specifically turn into Minatory? I mean, I don't think there is a transition which happens like you listen to normal stuff, and all of a sudden you're like, no, this is not happening. We gotta make stuff heavier.
Right. Okay, so you're gonna find this a bit funny, right? So I started listening to that stuff around, I guess, 5 to 6.5 years ago, give or take, and I was just experimenting, listening to heavier stuff. So I went from like the Monster Cat artists to like, all the Dodge and Fusky, the Disciple guys, and then I'm like, oh look, there's this guy called Moth, and he did, and he did this collab with Code Pandorum, who I didn't really know at the time, and it was the track "The Damned" from his EP, Moth's EP to be specific, and so I listened to it and I'm like, yes, this is more relatable. Time to actually listen to this kind of underground genre of, I guess, electronic music at the time. And it all started with really that. And then I listened to older tracks from like 2014 that were more dubstepy, like Moth's Ritual EP and all that kind of stuff. And I just started to kind of like get the hang of it, what it was like, all that kind of stuff, really.
Oh, 2014, 2013. Those were really nice days. I mean, Moth's music back then, Moth's music now, not a lot has changed, true, but it was very fresh. I guess that was the appeal back then.
Yeah, to me, musically, like his music wise, it may to me personally, it's changed, but it hasn't. But I don't think that is a bad thing. I think it keeps his signature. It's like Tramper. Think of Tramper as he has that signature style he's had for years, and he's kind of like worked with it. But I, as a listener, I don't really have a problem with that. Like you can tell if this is Moth with those like those races and those sustained basses and all that kind of thing, and that's what I like about it.
Interesting. I mean, not a lot of people get into the scene through Moth. It's either Code Pandorum most of the time.
I started with Moth before Code. I started with I listened a couple of months later to more of Code stuff, like his God LP at the time when that was actually just released, and then I was like, yes, this is perfect. Yes, I approve of this. As I'm in science class and I'm like experimenting with my mates, I'm just sitting there with my laptop on Spotify open, like, you want to listen to this stuff I recently checked out? Listen to this. Takes headphones out, puts it on max volume. Everyone's looking at me like, you're
You're
weird.
supposed to do science.
This is science.
Yeah.
This is science.
Right. You mix a bunch of noises and make something.
Yes.
Is there any specific reason that you want to make Minatory, not just listen to it?
Expression of emotion. I have said this to countless people, and it's in my bio and Facebook and everything. It's the main reason is to express myself. In other ways, I can't, like verbally or physically or whatnot. It's like another outlet, and I get some people understand that, but obviously not everyone does, which is fine. But yeah, it's probably the biggest outlet that I have for that specifically.
So probably just an observation. Since your music is pretty deep, you must be pretty deep as well.
Look, but I'll say this without being generic and like I'm not going to be edgy about this, but I have a very deep backstory onto how all the Minatory and DOOM came about because I normally didn't just look for it specifically because I was wanting to look for different music. I was very not in the best mind state at the time. And so that was another outlet for me, as well as like all the other music that I listened to at the time. But that specifically, like the Death Step and Minatory, like all that sort of stuff was very personal. So I listened to that whenever I was doing things independently, like going for walks, as I still do now, or I'm with friends and I'm just socializing. I always have like an earphone or an earbud in, just listening to stuff whilst I'm like conversating with people.
So it's like having a friend of sorts.
Yes and no. It's just like another way of like, I guess, keeping my mind fresh and not in the deep state that I tend to fall into at times. But yeah,
Makes sense, makes sense. You want to talk about that time, or shall we skip around that part?
I guess I can open up a little about it. Like I've told a few people about it. I guess a lot of people that I have spoken to about it have related to it on a, I guess, level that's understanding. But yeah, it had a lot to do with, I guess, harassment, like negative things inside and outside of school at the time. And it was kind of an experience I wish I never went through in terms of the negative effects, not the positives. But yeah, it comes down to lots of bullying, lots of like harassment, lots of like breakdowns emotionally, whether that would be at the time family related, friend related, random people, and like people and just harassing me and all that kind of thing, and me getting into a lot of fights. And almost every time I almost did a lot of bad things to people at inside school campuses as well. And I do regret that for the most part. Some people deserved it. They know who they are. But anyway, yeah, that's pretty much like the biggest factor of it, as well as having relationships back in there. And I guess they had their pros and cons. Like, I'm not gonna have anything against anyone at the time. But yeah, it all comes down to, I guess, the dark phases and the like the really depressive time that I went through, and I use that, and then I build on that, and I express myself in that regard, because at the same time, the music has revolved around mental illnesses and all these kind of problems, and I kind of get that, and so I don't want to see anyone else in the same position as me because it flipping sucks. It really does. And anyone who does go through the same thing, well, that's what my music is there for, to like help like know that they aren't alone. And I'm there, I've been there, done that. And yeah, like that's probably, I guess, the biggest factor of that specifically.
Thank you for sharing that. I hope you're in a better mental position right now.
I am. I've grown a lot since then. I really have.
Is that the reason you did a rebrand from Fish Ass to Scarred?
Okay, there has been a few questions. Like I've had a few people ask this, and okay, so the biggest one would be simply I need something new to start with. I was really unhappy with what I was making, and let's be honest, I wasn't experienced as much as I am now with the stuff I made back then. It was very basic. All the stuff was very thin sounding to me personally. My standards were set way too high. They still are, but we're not gonna. We'll talk about that in a sec. But yeah, my expectations are set way too high for my reach and experience at the time, and that kind of hindered my, I guess, well, what's the word? It's just the drive to continue with that. And so I just tried to rebrand into something more personal because Vish as specifically was a typo of the word vicious that someone
Oh.
called me during sword practice in high school. I was just going nuts. And he was like, "Holy shit, you're vicious, man!" And I'm just like, "Ha, new YouTube name."
You know what people call
Yeah.
you? I mean, there's a meme about that name. You know, Andorex, he calls you something around that name.
You know what's funny? Because I make a SoundCloud meme account with that meme name. I have a meme account on SoundCloud.
So you know what they call you.
I know exactly. I know exactly what he's talking about.
Are you allowed to say that here?
Fish ass. That's my SoundCloud name for
Exactly.
the memes and the shit posts. In other words.
Yeah. Talking about the experience level, how long did it take for you to actually get confident in your skills and production skills?
Okay. So to get confident in knowing that I can make stuff well enough to exceed what my expectations are, that only recently started this year. Last year, I released the Origins and Zarpunic EP, which were kind of experimentations on the storyline that I want to express, and at the same time, what direction I want to go for the specific music that I want to make. And so I experimented with a lot of, I guess, like the normal kind of 140 BPM, 145 BPM kick and snare, that sort of stuff that's been going on for ages.
Right.
And in the 4/4 pattern as well, which is fair enough. But yeah, I've been just experimenting, and this year I've started to grow a lot more and a lot quicker, and my quality has skyrocketed with how complex the tracks are. And that's what I'm happy about. I like putting lots of in-depth stuff into music, even if no one as a listener can hear it like very much, or like it's just subtle things in the background, like little textures or little background atmospheres that make the whole thing feel so much more full. And that's a part of my perfectionism as well. It's like, nah, this place is empty. Nah, that's been filled with an atmosphere. Nah, this needs to have a grungy little texture on it.
Yeah. So, given that level of perfectionism, how long does it take for you to, polish a track, let's say?
Oh no. Okay, so it takes on occasion an average about a month and a half, 2 months to finish one track.
Right from the idea to the version that you're happy with?
Right from the idea to the final master, about 2 months.
2 months. That's not bad, actually.
It's not, considering I don't rush as much now. Yeah, when I was Vishaz, it only took me 10 days to make one track. And that was very, at the time, I was like, I'm a freaking genius. I can make stuff so quick. I look back on it, I'm like, no, just no.
Okay, I get that. Instead of making stuff faster, it's better to make stuff that you listen to again and again and not just, listen to it and forget about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I had that problem. Listen and forget. That's really what it came down to until I actually grew and became to what I am now with my experience level. Yeah, that's a good way to summarize that.
That makes sense. I mean, I personally like listening to stuff for, I don't know, for years at a time. Not just once, not twice. If it's on my playlist, it'll be there for a long time.
Well, let me tell you right now,
Mhm.
on that topic, you would probably have your jaw dropped how many times I've listened to one of my tunes just over and over again just to hear these tiny little imperfections, right? And it's this tune I'm working on now that I've just finished, and I've listened to it at least a good 90 times from start to finish because I'm like, this little imperfection right here, this needs to be changed.
I hope you did not do that in one sitting.
No, it was between like 5 or 6 sittings.
Yeah, otherwise that would be crazy.
I would probably just fall asleep and face plant on the table and just never wake up at
Yeah.
that stage.
So, talking about stuff you're currently working on, I saw a post on Facebook recently that you were asking for suggestions. EP versus consistent releases. What do you think?
Well, from what I've been told, the third party kind of or third person perspective from someone else's point of views, I've had mixed answers, and someone's like one of my mates, Laszlo, said that obviously consistent releases will be better for branding, and which is I agree. Like release once a month or so, that's fine. That was my original goal. But because I'm in this like stage within the past couple of weeks where I'm going to be trying to stockpile music for future releases and stuff, I might just combine it into an EP. I was just kind of curious for ideas. But yeah, I've finished 2 tunes so far, and they might be combined into an EP or might be separate. I don't know. But I'm more leaning towards an EP, but I might still go with the single release. But we will see in due time because now I'm starting a new tune like sometime later today or tomorrow.
I look forward to that. So, how consistently do you work on music? Is it every day, or
Yes.
don't you have a life?
Yes, I do.
Okay, that's good to know. What's that?
It's I would say I wouldn't make music every single day. Like I have my off days where I'm just like, ugh, I can't be bothered. I'm just gonna go and do other things. Pretty much, I work on music as a hobby now instead of I guess, forcing a career at this stage currently because, well, to be put it simple, I've had so many outsider opinions from family and friends, and I've been contemplating making music a full-time career once I get to that stage. Which, if I do get to that stage where I've got enough of like a background, like a backup, and I can stand on, I can use as a full-time career, I will do that. But until then, I'm using it as a hobby because I want to financially support myself to that stage, which is what I'm doing at the current time. So yeah, as much as a hobby as it is, I tend to work on music as much as I can, and that's quite frequent. But it's more or less good, so I can get things done quicker. But at the same time, I try not to burn myself out.
Right, makes sense. What does your family think about it, since you mentioned that?
They've had a lot of mixed opinions over the years. But I guess the primary one now is because I live in the middle of literally nowhere, so to speak. Jobs and stuff are a little bit harder and a little bit more limited. So I have to resort to like finding different jobs and search for different like careers or may not even be career, just like something to financially stabilize myself on or whatnot. But yeah, they've just said to me, and I can agree with them 100% that you just use it as a hobby until you do see a lot more happening in a shorter amount of time. and then you can work on from that. And I completely agree. I 100%. Yeah, in terms of them like listening to the stuff I make, like to be fair, I do see my mother and father on occasion come into my room and listen, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, this sounds pretty good," and they just go out and listen to 25 seconds of Summer in the jukebox in the kitchen, just for reference. But yeah, they like the stuff that I do. They like how much effort I put into it and the creativity that I show them, even though they're like they have no idea how FL Studio or any digital audio workstation works. They just look at it and go, "That looks like a lot of stuff. Good work."
That looks like a lot of clicking.
Clicking's an understatement.
Knobs and bobs, as they say.
Pretty much.
People have resistance from their families given the struggle that a musician has to go through throughout their life, not just the beginning. And that is mainstream musician. And this, we're talking about underground stuff, so understandably so.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Did any of your friends or, people around you ever call you like vicious or scary because of your music, not just your sword fighting?
Good time to answer that, because yes, they have. And I've had a lot of my friends I met through TAFE and all the like institutes I went to for music courses and stuff. A lot of them I made friends with did listen to monster, like more mainstream stuff like Chime, Frankie Nuts, AU5, all those guys, respectively. And I've gone, plays SoundCloud tune of mine, and they've just sat there with wide eyes and gone, "I'm sorry, what?" And I've gone, "What is this? Am I dying or something?" I'm like, "Well, yes," to be quite fair. But I do have pretty much my best friend. He listens to a lot of Copandorum, formerly, now he's in Human, but he listens to a lot of that stuff. And I've showed him Necrophiler, or Justin, as his name is, and he just looks at it, he laughs, and he goes, "You're crazy." And I've gone, "No, I'm not. You listen to it too. Stop being hypocritical." And he goes, "Yeah, true. Alexa, play Osiris the Circus Venom remix, bass boosted ear rape."
And she'll be like, "I'm sorry, what?"
I don't know that because I'm not inclined to understand that kind of music. Sorry.
I don't even categorize that as music, maybe she'll say.
It is satanic worship music. Sorry, I can't play that.
Not a lot of people are comfortable talking about the satanic side of things, You have any opinion on that?
I've had so many, I've had my, experiences with trying to brand what I want to brand for my own personal, I guess, persona from music.
Yeah.
And I want to go less on that, I'm a Satanist guy, fear me, I'm the Conjuring on steroids sort of thing. No, that's not what I want to go for. Like, sure, the music is very dark, it's very aggressive, it's very obscure is the best way to put it, sure. And a lot of people use that as like the devil worship sort of thing. Like, that's cool to believe and think of whatever you want. I have nothing against that. And it's cool to have that aesthetic, but that's not my personal branding aesthetic. But yeah, there's been a lot of controversy about being satanic is just too edgy in the death step and Minatory community. There's been so many different opinions. And I'm just sitting there in the middle like, you do you, I do me. Right, that's all that matters.
Call it whatever you want to.
Yeah, exactly.
Jerry Moth, he's probably the most, I don't know, resistant guy to this. He's like, call it whatever you want to, I'll make my stuff.
Yeah, I see that's a fair point of view. Like, it is what it is, depending on what the listener's perception of the specific tune is. For example, I would say, what was it called? One time I played on a Bluetooth speaker in a public space, Doom by Creedy and Crow, and I kid you not, someone walked past and said, "What is this Satan worship music?"
Oh, they really said that?
Yeah, they literally said that, and I said, Minatory, and they just walked off with disappointment.
They'll probably forget that word and...
Yeah, they probably can't even register it, but well. Like, it's, yeah, one in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, but it's surprising that a game like Doom, which has such a massive audience, has somehow resonated in the audience.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be quite fair, the Doom community would probably love the Minatory community in terms of like the aesthetic, because I think those two would go well together.
I'm just wondering why it's not happening already.
I don't know, personally. I should just go up to Mick Gordon and be like, slaps a WAV file on email. Here you go, have distorted angry music for the next Doom game.
Right. You could try that, I guess. You never know.
Yeah. Well, now that I've said it, it's going to happen.
All the best for it.
Oh, well, I wish myself luck.
Back to the persona thing. What do you think about the mask you wear? Is that a mask or is that the plague doctor thing and the gown and the thing?
Okay, so I'm going to say this now. The original purpose of that mask was for Halloween in 2017. I bought it specifically for Halloween. I wore it to TAFE. I scared the shit out of everyone there. And I got a lot of negative feedback from the staff that worked there, but I didn't care at the time. I'm just like, deal with it. But yeah, I've kind of used that over time, and I've actually grown to use logic and reasoning behind the mask, because the whole idea of a plague doctor is to cure diseases. And the disease I would have would be obviously the negative, like depression and all that sort of thing, like you name it, like all the negative emotions and stuff. And I use that as a mask to symbolize, to cure something that I need to cure, and that would be obviously what that is. And it's grown over time, like it's slowly getting there. It's becoming more of like a straight line instead of a curve in the direction I'm trying to go. But yeah, that's the whole idea of it now, is to cure myself of like all the negative shit that I pretty much used to go through and what I do go through to this day.
That's a very good way of putting that. It's Halloween
Oh,
2017
thanks.
forever.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And can we talk about Animus Morbus for a bit?
Yeah, what would you like to know about it?
How did you get involved? And I forget, who is the actual owner of that?
The actual the founding owner is Lanya or Onyx.
Mhm.
I'm the A&R. Yeah, he's doing a good job. He's very busy. He's got his hands full with life and work and all that, which is understandable why he's not very responsive all the time. I can understand that. As far as my contribution to it is, I'm the A&R and I have like all the access to pretty much all the accounts like Bandcamp, SoundCloud, DistroKid, all the distribution stuff, just in case like I need to do it when he's busy, and all the submission, like the private submissions in the Discord submissions channel or whatever. But yeah, like I contribute my part as much as I can, as well as working on my own branding, as well as also keeping my fitness in check, as well as looking for a different job and all this kind of thing, just like daily life stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's as far as my contribution goes. But before Onimus Morbus came to be, it was known as Minatory Records, if I'm not mistaken. And the owners of that was, I think it was Jerry and AJ. I can't exactly remember, but that was like a goal to make it like a Plagueborn 2, I'm pretty sure, but that didn't work and it became Onimus Morbus today. So it is what it is, and it's growing. I can't believe it's growing the way it is, but it is growing.
I'm glad to hear that. It was sad what happened with Plagueborn.
Yeah, it is sad, but I feel like with why they terminated the old idea of Plagueborn was understandable, because there was just so much immaturity in the Plagueborn server. I was there to witness it myself.
Oh.
And I was in a Discord call with Necrophiler. I was with a couple of guys, and we were just like cackling about like children as we would. And I've got a video about this on my Vishas channel, I'm pretty sure. It's called Plagueborn.exe has stopped working. And still a good video. I still watch it.
I'll check it out.
That was pretty much, it was kind of like that, but it was on a worse scale. People were sending like, I think it was pornography and stuff in the channels that weren't permitted for that. And they were just being children. I
Oh,
don't know who it was, or I'm not going to point names or whatever, but it was just a whole, I guess, mess. And they just didn't like that. And they just pretty much said, nah, that's it. We're putting the hammer down. This is how it is going to go from now on.
I see. I mean, it did have a good selection of music, or back then,
They really did.
nothing similar was there. I mean, that was the only place for
Yeah, I
Minatory.
respected Plague Born because of the connection I had to that music specifically on that label, as well as Legion as well. But yeah, it is a shame, but it is what it is, and we just got to learn, live, and just learn to live with it
Right.
and keep it. I think it can be a good thing that when because they stopped, it's now kind of like a gold mine, and it's like a way of like tributing what used to be and what can be in the future, e.g., well, the potential of Onimus Morbus. But I think it is pretty much like even if it didn't like what's the word? It didn't like stop, then it would still be a really reputable label. But because it stopped, it's I appreciate that it's now kind of a gold mine of classic and I guess older music that what used to be and how people grow to now.
And in a way, I think it ended on a good note rather than being a mess and people hating it, you know?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, a lot of people were shocked and sad more than like, oh, cancel this. I'm canceling this because of cancel culture or whatever.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people do not know the story that it goes behind the, names and such.
Oh, yeah.
So glad that it ended on a good note, and all the best for Onimus Morbus and whatever is to come next.
Oh, thank you. I'll be trying my best to help with that label as much as I can.
So let's talk about something a little bit different now. You are into mixed martial arts and a lot of bodybuilding, let's say. You want to talk about that?
Yes. Yeah, sure. Okay, so I originally used to be over the top self-conscious with myself. I still am. But when I was I think 16 when I started to just like experiment with physical like strength training and bodybuilding, you name it. There's various ways of explaining it, and they have their different like they do different things. But I used to be very, I mean, to my point of view, I used to be very, I guess, underweight for my size when I was 16, 17. That's when I started to like try and work on myself physically. And I, I guess I did a good job, but at the same time, I'm still at this point, like, as well, I gained about, I'd say, a lot of weight since then, but that's not all. It's not a bad weight. It's healthy, solid mass, which is what I'm looking for, and that's pretty much what my goal is as well. But that's for gym and weightlifting specifically on the like the fighting and self defense sort of aspect. I've been trialing and erroring that for years, and now I'm actually really, really good at what I do specifically. Like, for example, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is a grappling art that in the self defense, like, sort of, I guess, industry. And that is a very technical martial art to learn, as well as Taekwondo and all these other very artistic self defense styles. And I've learned to use my body because I know for a fact someone like me was to get a hold of someone, they're kind of fucked. But I've learned to just accept that I'm not the best out there, no matter how good I train. And I use what I have to be as humble as I can and just be happy with what I'm capable of doing and not be like all this mumbo. I'm so much better than you normal person who doesn't do self defense. Like, I'm not like that. No way. But in terms of all that sort of like the gym and like all that fitness, as to summarize it all, I'm doing so much better than what I used to because back then I had no idea what technique to do, like all these sort of things that were just the little things that help get that extra 10%. And now I'm still building on that, whether that's both like mentally and physically, and that's what I'm happy about.
Interesting. Do you think that influences your music in any way?
I would say so, in a not a massive degree, but it does, because whenever I go out and do exercises, whether that's going for like a 20-kilometer walk or a 10-kilometer bike ride or weightlifting in the gym, it doesn't matter. Like I go out, I just pretty much do what I do, but at the same time, I look at things, I hear things in the background, things I could use for, just things to kind of either resample or just use to make things sound similar, like metallic effects or even ambient wind noises when I'm going through a forest, so to speak. Like those are cool influences I kind of, I guess, work on to make things sound more authentic and more like I'm not ripping this ambience from this sound pack.
Yeah. And add that perfectionist little this there and a little that there. Makes sense.
Oh, you are so correct on that.
So that was all that I had on my mind to talk about. Anything you would like to specifically talk about?
Yeah, I guess I can start off with the Minatory community as it stands now in 2021 is a bit of a grey area, and there's lots of people with different experience levels now more than ever, from my experience and my perception. And the community is very diverse in who sees it like in whatever way or whatnot. And for someone like me to like, even it doesn't have to be me, it can be like the more OG artists like my buddy Zach or Vince, who I don't think anyone speaks to very much anymore. Those guys like Wither, Venom slash Ruined, even Jerry, Justin, all these guys that I highly respect, to say to them less experienced that want to learn more that the genre is very niche, and if you want to perfect it and get the best out of it, don't look at as a serious sort of, oh, it's just white noise, like a lot of people do in the dubstep community. And as far as I'm aware, anyway, look at it that way. And I guess nowadays as well, people tend to see it as it's just one bass line, one kick, one snare, cymbals, and that's it. That's all it is. And I can say that if people think like that, it's okay to think the way they do, but I feel if they want to get to know, that's with any genre of music, it doesn't have to be something like this. If you want to get to know a genre, at least take the effort to understand what the niches are and how people make it, whether you listen to someone less experienced or more experienced. It as long as you can get like a mature understanding, which I know for a fact not many people are mature about it in this scene, but anyway, just take your time to like to understand it. And that's kind of like what I've wanted to say for a long time, because I know a lot of people respect the genre for being what it is, and a lot of people don't. So I can't please everyone. So I just try and get as many humble and understandable people as I can.
Makes sense. What did you mean by Minatory being a gray area?
As in, a lot of people say negative things about it. It's the reputation aspect of it in this the grey area, from
Ah,
my experience anyway.
is it
Oh,
about the people or the?
it's the toxic part of the scene, in other words. And there's always going to be a toxic scene to everything, like rhythm, jump up, bloody thrash metal, if you will. There's always toxic people in every community. And no matter what you do, the toxic people are very single minded with the way they think, and they will continue to think like that. So, yeah, trying to please them is not going to really work. So, you just got to live to adapt and learn around them.
Okay, makes sense. You also mentioned that you want to pushing Minatory to new grounds, something like that. You mentioned.
Yeah, okay. So the I guess meaning behind that is specifically to go where not a lot of people have dare tried, in terms of the actual like the immense in-depth complexity of how complex you can make a track. So a lot of people are very I guess, specific with how simplistic or how complex music is. Sometimes less is more, sometimes more is less. Um, it doesn't like differs on everyone else. But when I mean pushing it to new grounds, I mean in this aspect of I want to brand myself as well to more mainstream people and see what they think of my perfectionism style in a way. And if they like it, then sure, that's one step to the pushing the genre out to more expansive communities, in other words. And that can also work with the dungeon side of Minatory, which is a big topic now, as far as I'm aware, in this community specifically. A lot of my friends are like experimenting with dungeon stuff. I guess it's becoming more of a thing now because I guess one of the most known dungeon tracks to this date. I'm not going to say the name of the track because I'll butcher it with my shitty spelling. But it's by the artist Gorn, which I think everyone knows is Swarm, but someone else in a different alias. But yeah, that one of Gorn's tracks is probably the biggest influence on, I guess, currently released Dungeon Minatory tracks. But I know for a fact that my buddy Zach, Wither slash Corpseon, has got lots of stuff potential that he's going to put out soon, I hope. You better, Zach. I know you'll be listening to this at some stage, but I know he's got so much potential for the community in the dungeon side, and that's going to bring a lot more people to it, like just the dungeon specific community to listen to Dungeon Minatory, and that will brand it to more people, which is pushing that to more grounds and expanding the entire genre and its sub counterparts, if you will, to different people.
Can you explain what exactly dungeon is? Because I honestly have no idea.
I'm probably not the best person to know because I haven't even tried it. But as far as I'm concerned, the dungeons in Minatory are derived from dungeon synth, which dungeon synth is a very, I guess, medieval styled form of synth music, and it's got high pass, low passes. It's a very like specific kind of music that makes it sound more raw, more medieval, more like just pure in its like mix downs and styles. It's more of an unhinged kind of music in terms of its, I guess, mix downs, yeah. But yeah, that's as far as I can probably say about what I know about it because I've never really dug deep into it, to be honest.
I mean, I can recognize it when I listen to it, but if you ask me what it is, I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah, I was like that at first until I decided to watch a lot of Zach's streams whenever he streams, and I've just like, okay, I get this. This is fair. Like, I can understand this. And a lot of the dungeon producers use a specific door, and that is FL Studio 11. Everyone is in the dungeon community that I know of, like Zach, Marty, all my friends, are sworn by FL Studio 11.
They're like, never, ever, ever am I going to upgrade to whatever comes next.
Yeah, and then I say I use it. I use the latest FL Studio, and they just start insulting me and like, "Ha! You use modern technology, nerd." I love it. I love that, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason they call it medieval, you know?
Exactly.
What would you want to say to people who are just starting out, either in Minatory or in general in music?
Well, I say this, right? If you want to start out, at least have a clear goal. Like before you actually start making stuff, even if you have to write down on a piece of paper or write down on a laptop, what do you feel comfortable making? Why you want to do it? What's your direction? And how you will go about it. So if you're a confident, aspiring artist that is idolizing whoever it may be, at least just slow down. Don't rush things like I did. That's how I came in to be scarred. Um, yeah, I'd say just see what your direction is. Take your time because if you put in the dedication and you get like you pretty much just make connections, you will get places, and I can guarantee you that.
Thank you for that. And I think I have one last question related to that.
Okay.
Starting out, the biggest problem, what I've heard from people, is getting feedback that they can actually use and not just, hate comments. So to get feedback that is useful to the producer, what do you suggest is the best way to go about?
Well, okay, so I've actually sent in a lot of like a few Minatory tracks to 10 graph streams, and I've myself had lots of constructive feedback and criticism, which is a different story to actually hating on music and saying this sounds trash. You will, or you need to change this because it doesn't suit my personal needs and I don't like it because of that. That's just a stupid way of looking at it. That's childish. And I know a lot of people with feedback in this community are very one of two things. They need to change it to the person who's giving feedback to so that they like it specifically. And if they don't, then they think no one else is going to like it because they're right. And well, the other one would be, I guess, the constructive feedback, which is a lot less common.
Yeah.
Like, for example, every time I have given feedback, which I honestly don't do enough, I know that for a fact, and I need to give more people feedback and help people because that's a goal that I want to do. Is I don't sit there and say, "Oh, this sounds good, but I'd like to change this and this and this, also this. Oh yeah, also this." I want to sit down and give them a 2,000-word paragraph on what they've made, how it sounds good to my ears, and then at the same time, what you can do to help it sound better, but not making it sound like you will change this. Oh, this change this. No, this needs, and make it sound like a more of a professional approach on it because being professional with helping people is going to give you a better reputation, which is not my main goal. My main goal is to help people.
That makes sense. So I guess that is a message to the people who actually provide
Of
feedback.
course. Yeah, that would be my main message to everyone.
So that's all I had. Anything you would want to discuss? Last words? Anything? Keenan, is that how you say your name?
Keenan. Yeah, that's how I say. Yeah, that's how you say it. So key, lock, like a lock and key, and then nan.
Keenan.
That's Keenan. Yeah.
Okay. You were saying something.
But yeah. So really, the last thing I could say is, well, I'm not going to promo myself too much, but I have a lot of exciting stuff coming that I'm experimenting with, and it's in the direction I want to be, which is like doom metal Minatory in a way. So it's very slow, it's very atmospheric, it's very, I guess, metal inspired because I know for a fact a lot of people I know love metal and I love Minatory. So I'm going to be like, I'm going to slap them two together.
I listened to your latest stuff. What was that? There was a free download, I think. I don't remember the name, but that was really good.
If you're talking the recent clips I've uploaded, like the Abhorrent collab, the Autokilla remix, those are done. I just need to set a release date for those. The White Eyes collab that I've finished and I've sent to Dan Froome to mix and master.
Oh, there's a White Eyes collab? I did not know that.
Yes, there is.
Oh, I'm excited now.
I can't wait just for that to be released. There's so many other good artists on that album, honestly. Like, he's got over 20 freaking tracks on that album so far, if I'm not mistaken. But that's a heap of tracks.
Wow.
But yeah, any final words for myself? I'd probably say Doodoo white noise.
I had to look up what actually doodoo means, and I was like, sure, I get it now.
Yeah, well, now you know. I'm probably the only person right now who abuses the living Christ out of that name.
Gets thrown about a lot, that word.
Yeah, it really does. Not gonna lie.
And I guess that's all. Thank you so much for being here, Keenan. I had a fun time.
No worries.
And maybe we'll catch up again sometime.
Yeah, no problem at all. I'd be happy to share some unreleased stuff with you at least at some point.
Ooh, okay. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
No worries. See you later.
Bye-bye.